Hi, my name is Mike, and this is my third installment of my testimony. Trying to help others avoid the pitfalls that I fell into in my life, the battles that and struggles that I had for most of my life. Uh, at this point, I'd moved to Utah and uh, thinking that a possible change in my life could, change me, but it's not the outward things that change us; it's the inward things. So I moved to Utah and I started at an aerial survey place and started hanging around with some of my friends that I went to Job Corps with. Well, of course, when we hang around with others that enjoy uh, the lifestyle that we live in, we just fall right into place with them. The drinking, it didn't go away. Um, the drug use, um, the pornography, being and living in a much bigger city again, there were strip joints and pornography places. At this point in time, the internet wasn't really widespread. It was just very small. A few slick people had it. It wasn't even called the internet at that point. So, you still had to search it out. You had to go out and find it. And I was all about that. It didn't take too long to figure out where the strip joints were, where the adult bookstores were, where my friends, I wasn't telling them about what the pornography addiction I had. We'd share in the partying and that, but there's a shame, like I said, that comes with pornography and that addiction, and I was steeped in it. So that was always hidden. I always hid that. Um, so as time progressed, I was just getting more and more into the pornography and then into the strip joints and you know partying with my friends and kind of pushing people away and needing them at the same time to party with. I pushed a lot of people away. I hurt a lot of people. I hurt a lot of people. um, when you're in pornography, it's woman after woman after woman after woman after woman after woman. You may not be physically with them, but you're still using them for your own gratification. I learned that a little later on. At this point in time, I really wasn't a stumbling stone. It wasn't a true battle. I was just falling into it. I was given to it, the sinful nature that I talked about. Um, I had no power over it. It was controlling me. And that's the thing with addiction is it controls you. It tells you what you are going to do, and you just you follow it. It's your God. Um, you know, the early on in my life, I had a little bit of religion. I got baptized in this now when I was young, and I'm thankful for that because it came out later to help me. But at this point in time, when I was in Utah, I wasn't there. I was fully into the world. Um, it was affecting my jobs. I was always a person that worked when I did work, I worked hard. Um, my future wife at that point in time decided to move down there with me. So I got a couple of jobs. trying to get a place of my own because I was staying with a friend of mine. And she ended up moving down there. With her, the party was just continuing. I moved into an apartment complex, and I think on all three sides of me, I had, to the above me, to the side of me, and to above and to the side, there was partiers. Everybody wanted to party. Everybody does. Trying to forget what they're going through and have some form of, I guess, sanity at that point. Which I guess how it's controlled chaos, I guess. But we got into the party, and then we were drinking and we were doing the drugs, and everything was just piling on. And, the self hatred was still there because of the pornography. Um, and the only thing that was controlling that was just the drunkenness. Started to get more and more of a mean drunk because of the self hatred. I didn't care about those people that were partying with me. They didn't care about me. All we were there was for the party. So she was down there a few months with me, and she finally couldn't put up with me anymore. So she left. She came back to our home of origin, and I ended up staying down there. Well, I got hooked up with another woman, and just I was fully in my sin. I mean, I was just, I called my job one day because I had taken acid the night before, and I couldn't even think straight by the time it was go to work, and it's just I would start to get into fighting and a little bit of that, not much. But I got into contracting as a drafter, and I was going around to various places. I worked out at hazardous waste site there in Utah, and then I moved down to Durango, and I was working down there for a while. And it's the mental haze from the huffing was still with me. I wasn't fully there. I mean, I kind of like Einstein. I had a lot of brain knowledge, but no common sense. So I did that for a little while, and then it ended up losing a job down in Durango, and went back to Salt Lake, and that's when I decided to come back to where I came from, my home of origin. So I came back up here, and I searched out my future wife, and we got together, and we were staying at my grandparents' house. They were, at that point in time, they were in nursing homes, so their house hadn't been sold yet, and this and that. So we were staying there. Partying continued. One thing we did realize, she had a kid, and we were really considering starting a life. So we put away the pot, kind of fell away. I mean, it's pot, yeah, it's a drug, but it's not addictive like the coke or the crank or you know of those natures. So we decided at that point, kind of put it off to the side, not get into it like we did. We were still doing a little bit here and there. The drinking, was just a normal occasion with us. It's almost every night. My tolerance to drinking has increased, so I was drinking more and more. Um, so we got pregnant and had a child together. Her child was from our previous relationship. And I went to work and for Shields, and I was working there constantly trying to provide things and this and that. That place was just a free for all down there. It's a bunch of guys that worked hard and liked to drink, and it was just I never really got in with them as far as a party crowd. I was just party with my wife anymore. Um, but we finally were able to achieve our own house, so we got into our own place, and I wasn't much of a husband because of the pornography. My drinking just got worse, and I got more hateful. My wife said if I had my hair cut, I looked like I was Satan indwelled. So I had hair long down, back to my back, halfway down, and you know, got to the point where I was drinking about a fifth every 2 days. I was really into the drinking. Um, in some ways, I was trying to be a good dad. We had a third child then, and I was trying to be a good dad, be the one home with them and playing with them and, providing for them and this and that. But all the meantime, I was just steeped in my sins. I wasn't being the dad I needed to be. I wasn't being the husband. Well, one night, me and my wife were drinking, and it came to a head. Um, I was just so full of hatred, so full of it was spewing out onto other people. And I was drunk that night, and I started tearing up the house because I was so angry. I was in a rage. And by the grace of God, my wife called her mom and got out of there. And I passed out. And the next morning, I woke up and she called me, said I need to get out of the house. Cops were coming to serve me a restraining order. So the first thing I did was walked across the street to the barber shop and cut my hair because I knew that would irritate her. And I went and got my own apartment. Well, I was a hard worker. I was a hard worker. And I maintained both the apartment and paying for the house while she was staying there. And I knew with everything within me, I was at the end of me. I had hit a pit. My marriage had gone south. Um, I hated everything about my life. Um, I couldn't get out of it. No matter how much I wanted to do the right thing, I couldn't. I couldn't find the strength to do it. I couldn't find the power to do it. And when I got to the apartment, my dad got a hold of me, my real dad, and he asked if he could move in with me. He'd been homeless up to that point. I told him, yeah, he can move in with me. And well, my dad had been serving the Lord for a while, and he moved in with me, and he gave me his Bible, and I opened it up for the first time, and I started reading. I'd be working 12-hour days and then coming home sleeping, get up, say 2 in the morning, read for 3 hours, and then head to work again. So it took, during this time, I was watching my kids for my wife while she worked, and I poured myself into the Bible. I started reading it, New Testament, Matthew to Revelation, and the next thing you know, some odd things happened. Starting to listen to Christian music, which wasn't me. I was AC/DC, Highway to Hell, Back in Black, Judas Priest, the whole 9 yards before I moved out from my house. And I started to see a change in me. You know, things, the self-hatred started going away. Um, the pornography started going away. I mean, it just fell off. Um, when I left my house, it was July 9th of 1999. And my wife seen a change in me. You know, kids, she'd come over to pick up the kids, and we'd be sitting there playing and just laughing and having a good time. And I was treating her decently. Well, the Lord's word has a way of changing us. It says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind and the washing of the word. His word is truth. It's real. I mean, you open his word and he's speaking to you. It's crazy how one book can do that, but it's not just a book. I found out it's his word. It's him speaking to all of humanity, each one of us individually. And I got to the end of Revelations, and I've been working hard. I've been working a lot of overtime and this and that, trying to make ends meet. And I was late for work. It was like September 2nd, 2 months later. And I went to work, and I walked into my job, and I looked at my boss, and I said, I think I'm fired. I think I've got all the absentees I can get. Could you check the books to see if I'm fired? I mean, honesty. That was never me. I was a liar. And he went and checked the books, and I walked outside to the break room. Smoking was still there. So he comes out and he says, you're not fired. You're good. So I just started to lift. I told him thank you, and I started walking back into work, and I lifted my hands, and I started praising the Lord. Yeah, that's not me. You know, Mr. Steeped in all my sins. And something happened that night. In the middle of this debauched workplace, I don't think anybody ever worshiped the Lord there until that night. And I walked in there and I started worshiping the Lord. I didn't care who said what. I didn't care what I looked like. I didn't care if I looked like a freak. I just started worshiping because I'd read his word and I seen who he was, and I found out who I was in him. And it was the most beautiful 12 hours I ever had in my whole life. The Spirit of God got a hold of me, and he just filled me to the full. I mean, I've never been so energized in my life. And I started talking to everybody about Jesus Christ and their need for him. And things were happening. People were throwing pornography in my face. And I was just like, get thee behind me, Satan. And I just kept walking. And I talked to my boss, my plant supervisor boss, for I don't know how many hours. He was Catholic, and he knew of the Lord and this and that, but he didn't know the Lord. And the Lord just opened up a window to talk to him and just to evangelize him. And my area boss was telling me I needed to quit my preaching, and I I looked at him and I said, "Who do I obey, you or God?" That didn't set right with him. But yeah, and during the course of the night, God was giving me visions. I mean, visions of what we were about during this time here on this earth after we gave our lives to him. How he was trying to recreate his creation through us. He gave me pictures of what my future was going to hold. Talked to thousands of truckers. He gave me a picture of judgment, and it's not what you think. It's different. A lot of people have read the Bible, but they haven't studied the Bible. They haven't got down and deep in it, and God gave me something that I had to dig out. I mean, it took me years to dig it out, but He showed it to me. And now that I know, I can say He is so gracious. He is so merciful. Yeah, there is judgment coming for what we've done on this earth, what we've done in our bodies. But in the midst of it, He's still gracious. He's unchanging. So that night I got done. I was at the end of the 12 hours. I was sitting on one of the machines watching people walk out. And they were just staring at me like I was some freak. And I got off work and I went home, and my dad was there. And we went out to the park. And I got to tell him what it was like. And he was just rejoicing. And later that day, I was off for a couple of days. Later that day, I went out and talked to my wife. We were getting along a lot better. We were really doing well. We'd almost divorced. She wanted a divorce, but I couldn't do it. After I got into His Word and found out, God hates divorce. But the pornography was gone. The drinking was gone, the drugs was gone, and I didn't want them. I'd found power. I'd found power of God to overcome. And I was so thankful. Oh my goodness. A portion of my life had been given back to me. To tell you the truth, all my life had been given back to me because I was dead in my sins prior to that. That's what the Bible says. It says before Christ, we're dead in our sins. We don't even have a life. Not till we come to Christ. Not till we allow Him to save us and transform us and set us apart. So I went out and I talked to my wife about what happened, and I told her I don't know what God has got for me. I don't know where I'm going. And me and my wife opened up to get each other that night. We got all of our skeletons out. She had been in adultery because I had not been the husband I needed to be. She was seeing another guy. I told her about all the pornography. I told her about everything. And it freed us. It freed us. There was nothing that was separating us. We forgave each other, deeply forgave each other. And it became the most beautiful thing I ever seen in my whole life. I'm going to end it off here. And I'll start back up on the new creation. Again, I thank you for listening to me rant. And I pray this hopefully will help somebody along the way, that they don't go through what I went through, and that they find the power to overcome those things if they're in them. Because there is power. There is freedom. And God can give it to you if you want it. And I pray you have a good day, and I just pray God blesses you deeply. You have a good day. Bye.